So in Schenectady, you're running for mayor.
Hello, my name is Orlando Otis Hunley, and I'm running for mayor of Schenectady, New York. And I'd like to announce that this January, that I will be doing what so many of our people have come to know as a reality, and that's sleeping outside for an entire night, to bring an awareness to the fact that we have enough property, we have enough housing to house all of the people that we have living on the street.
Yes.
What are the things that you want to improve most?
Sidewalks, I think a huge catalyst for success, and is like being mayor is like just like a foundation for what I want to do in the state of New York. But a litmus test for me is, and for the people, is can they see potholes be filled in?
Mm-hmm.
Can roads be made safer, especially at a time where more and more people are riding e-bikes, e-scooters, and potholes are even more dangerous and deadly for them
Yep.
than people in 3,000-pound cars. So sidewalks. There's sidewalks in Schenectady where leading away from schools where kids are like walking and just in the street. So building that out, and then getting people involved. Because like politicians up until this point, they want low turnout elections on the local level because that's when that's how they skate by. But getting everyone involved, and it's like we're energizing people in Albany, we're energizing people in Troy, in Saratoga, to
Upstate
get
New York.
in upstate New York in general, to get invested and make this a more connected area. Especially, and that's the dynamic you need if you want younger people to get involved, because a lot of us are, we want to be involved, but we have to see results.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So you spoke about potholes, getting people involved. It's so crazy how simple issues like potholes
Yeah.
just never get fixed. I mean,
Yes.
I'm not too intelligent when it comes to politics, but I think and we have one of the highest tax rates in the country, and it's like we can't just get decent roads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of sad, honestly, when I
Mhm.
think about it.
No, it is very sad. And I'll say, just like the dynamic in Schenectady, like when you pay to park in Schenectady, the money that you're contributing to the city in that manner is being split in three different ways. So when it comes to like the roads and parking and, public safety as a revenue mechanism, people have become comfortable with none of that money reaching the issues that we want dealt with. So we're contributing, whether it's like, you get that ticket for speeding, which, is a large problem, especially with these automated cameras now. That money is not even that money doesn't contribute to the city in the way that you might want to see it. Your property taxes aren't making it to the sidewalks, and we're paying record high property taxes.
Yep.
Another increase just happened. So it's really about, the money is flowing. It's circulating out of our cities and the state, and it's not reaching our basic infrastructure.
Since you just brought it up, in upstate New York, I heard that you spoke against AI security, certain cameras, just in the capital region in general. Just since you brought it up, could you tell me more about that, please?
Well, and I have I'm friends with a theoretical physicist, and she's the one who really like put it in like scientific terms for me.
Okay.
But it comes down to data. We're in the age of information, and data and the ability to collect it is what generates like great profit for people.
Right.
And we're cut out of that entirely. Our faces on the internet right now, there's a lot of money going to be made, and we won't see any of it. But when you talk about local governments opting into facial recognition technology, and the understanding that disproportionately affects people of color, and because the AI sees us all as looking the same, and this is just facts. This is the sort of technology that they're attempting to implement. And then one of the greatest dangers about it, and there's a lot going on, but one of the greatest dangers about it is that it can be taken over and controlled by higher forms of government whenever. So if we implement it on the local level, they're expecting localities to implement it individually. That way that then they can then control it. And it's really just about control. And it's just like, do you want to automate the control? And even like it connects to, the facial recognition aspect. And, it falsely accusing people, and then it turns into our entire like municipal governments, our entire society is set up in a way where it's just like it wants you to make a mistake, and the system wins and profits when there are people in prisons at higher rates.
Yeah.
The system wins when you speed 1 mile over, you know. So, and then even with the new point system for licenses at this moment, it's like that you have to understand that that's one hand and the other hand is doing something else. So you have to watch both hands, and how the point system being escalated in a real way and it becoming easier for them to put points on your licenses. That's going to be combined with the fact that it's going to be automated. They're going to be, you know, they're going to automate the ticketing, you know. So you know, it's about control, and it's about making us unable to travel. And it's just like, if upstate New York wants to be revitalized, you know, we have to look to public transit. We have to understand that money is not reaching our roads, and then we're automating the flaws. We're automating the flaws before we even reevaluate what does and doesn't work on a human level. You know.
Yeah. So it sounds like security is getting more automated while also getting more strict. That's basically what I'm hearing.
Yes. We have and this is another like funny aspect to it, but we have a drone that's on the top of a middle school in Schenectady. Highly opposed to that, and it answers calls. And
you don't think that could increase safety in some senses, or no?
Well, what they've cited, and you know, what they've cited is that it's helped them, you know, just find children, you know, in parks, you know, in Bellevue Park. It helps them do certain types of things better and quicker.
Okay.
But at a moment where response times are down, and like actual like properties like hotels, they can call the cops in Schenectady, and the police won't arrive until the next day.
Wow.
So, and that, I mean, when you say something like that,
wow,
it's either true or it isn't. Like, you know, so and it's true, but we're not living in the reality that we're automating the flaws. So if there's a noise complaint, you can send a drone to go yell at someone. But when you're dealing with people having their cars broken into in one of our major hotel properties, you know, it's just, you know, our police are all over the place, being overworked. And it's just there are certain things that need to be figured out first.
Okay.
And the drone, it's like the drone is one update away from being used against, you know, what so-called riots. You know, it's just like we don't need a drone. We don't need a drone in this moment. And I do support like a 15-year moratorium on these sorts of technology and law enforcement.
15-year what?
Moratorium.
What does that mean?
We're just not going to do it for 15 years.
Okay.
You know, no, like City of Schenectady is not implementing facial recognition, biometrics, you know, all this, you know, like all this hyper tech saturated law enforcement. And I mean, it's just not in this moment. It's not in this moment, you know, and I do think upstate New York needs to understand that, because these things, they're not meant for our public safety. If we want public safety, genuinely, we have to start. And this is something I learned from spending the night outside of City Hall. There are a lot of people who are, or they're on the street and they're homeless. And, you know, we evaluate them as this 50-year-old person who's on the street. And, you know, we assume that they made a wrong life decision. But the case is, some people never even had a chance. And I've talked to people who are living on the streets, and they've been on the streets since they were 18, right out of the foster care system onto the streets.
Wow.
You know, so we have really a problem where people are just getting spit out of the systems we do have. And then they're automating the call centers. So there's no help, you know, there's actually no help. And it's just, they've figured out a way. They're just really trying to put on something else. The customer service, they're trying to automate the customer service and make it so that there's no one to contact for help, and then there is no help. And if the answer is, oh, we'll send a drone, and the drone will just yell at you, and I don't know, it's very strange. Very strange stuff.
There's a lot I could say based off of what you said. Before I change topics.
Yeah.
So what's that last sentence you literally just said? You said they're trying to automate the help so that there is no help.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that, and is that intentional?
I think it's mostly, I mean, everyone, and this is for non-for-profits, this is for small governments, this is for companies, this is for colleges. I really do think that people are thinking in terms of budgets, and they just see it as like dollars on a spreadsheet. And when you see that if you replace cafeteria staff with a vending machine and you save $100,000, a lot of people in these rooms making these decisions will make that decision purely on the basis of the dollar. So when you look at, you know, customer service, and there have been many times where a human picking up on the other side of a customer service call has led to actual help.
Okay.
And but that's not what they want. That's not what they want. And then it's just easier to have this machine, this AI, it allows them to save money. And this is like, so it just speaks to that fact. And the thing is, but in like, when you think in those terms, when you're only thinking in the terms of dollars and how much money you save,
you don't think about people.
You don't think about people, and then you don't think about the long-term implications of your decisions. And, if we are continually run by people who are making short-term decisions, and don't understand the long-term consequences. We're currently going through so many long-term consequences. Like most of these things that, the reason why I'm reaching so many people is because these things are, the fact that these are still problems, it creates the fact that my campaign is even so, reaching so many people, because these problems are so systemic. And once again, they're trying to automate the callousness. And it just gets you on the phone, and it saves them a bunch of money. I mean, that's
right.
And people can just look at it like just from that frame. That's a great, yeah.
So do you think that so when it comes to automation, AI security in upstate New York, and even just, we could talk about this in the world. You said that you feel that they don't, they're thinking short term, they're making short term decisions. I would say, which you sort of said, they're making profit driven decisions, not necessarily short term decisions. You said you don't think that they understand the long-term consequences. Would you say that they don't understand the long-term consequences, or they don't care about those consequences?
Well, and that's, people tell me I'm too nice. They don't give a shit. They don't like, they literally, everyone, when you're in these rooms, you get a pro and cons, and some people just don't care about the cons. They only care about the pros. And when you only care about the pros, well, we're doomed. We're in Schenectady has a monstrous history of that, with GE not caring about dumping, and toxic waste. I mean, New York, once again, they're allowing dumping of toxic waste into the Hudson after the and I forget the name of the bill, but it was an amazing bill. And this I'll give Kathy Hochul and Antonio Delgado credit on the Save the Hudson. The Save the Hudson had bald eagles back in the Hudson, just from stopping the dumping. And I mean, over 100,000 people get their drinking water from the Hudson. So so it just, but the assessment was that there is a certain amount of toxic dumping that the state, the federal government, and people just allow. So as long as you don't go over that, you can dump this amount of nuclear waste into our water supply.
Crazy.
So, and they know. I mean, these are the smartest people. But just 100%. Because you're smart, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'll move on to the next question in a second, but I feel like I think the people, us as citizens, we make a foolish assumption that the people in charge of us are just dumb. How could this person allow this? Why is this? I voted for this, but this is happening.
Yeah.
They're no, they're not stupid.
No.
I feel like we're silly for assuming that they are uncalculated.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
So in Schenectady, you slept in front of City Hall on the street to bring attention to homelessness.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What was that like?
Well, we started at midnight and we went till sunrise, and we had at least 10 people show up. Some of them who were sleeping outside of the library, some people who were just getting off of work. and my friend Kento, shout out Kento, who pulled
So it
up.
wasn't just you.
No, it wasn't just me. And then we had, thousands of people in the TikTok live, and we were going back and forth on live between Instagram and TikTok, and we had great conversations with people from all across the country. And there was one point where like people were telling me the entire day, like, "Oh, you're gonna get arrested for sleeping outside of City Hall," and that just didn't register to me. Like some people worry about you too much. But like I'm there just speaking for like 5 minutes, and then the cop car pulls up, and I turn the camera around to them, and I go, "Hey, how you guys doing?" Because we're gonna do this on camera. I was like, "Oh, I thought people were capping," but no, they go, "No, we watch you on TikTok." So they
crazy.
no, crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Hell emotion.
Yeah.
But we spoke. I mean, and even like the night before when I went to go remind people that I was going to be spending the night outside. This homeless woman who her and her boyfriend, they sleep in front of the Schenectady Public Library. She said, "Oh well, we heard about you, and we were talking about you last night, and the homeless community in Schenectady, they were like, but they were talking like shit about me. They were like, oh, he's just gonna pull up in a camper, barbecue, it's gonna be this whole stuff." But I was just outside all night, talking to people, and one of the first people to come up was her boyfriend, and I go, "Well, I'm not here in a camper." And we proceeded to have he just told his life story. He grew up in Schenectady, and he was out on his own by 18, ended up working in Boston, and he ends up getting a charge. And then it's very hard for once, we want to end, and this is what it taught me. These problems are so connected. So you look at one problem and you think it's just an isolated incident. But the fact that we compartmentalize so much is why we're not like seeking holistic solutions. And he's been in the cycle of homelessness since he was 18, because he ended up in jail, and then no one wants to hire someone with a record. And now he's on the street, and he's almost 40, and he's never really had that that second chance.
Yeah.
So that was like a big thing. And then to also learn about the fact that we're shipping people back and forth, and it's like how this overlaps with public transit. We have a public transit system that shuts off at like key moments for a lot of people, like through the nighttime. So, and then you have people paying outrageous amounts to Uber. But when there's a code blue and a shelter in Schenectady is filled, they'll bus people up to Albany not knowing if that shelter is filled, and then they'll just be homeless in Albany. So like that
Wow.
was another thing that I learned. And then that they're cutting off, they cut off outlets, so that people who are homeless in upstate New York can't charge their phones. Like they're like Schenectady, our Amtrak station, they stop the outlets at night, so people can't charge their phones. So it's just like, that's the sort of stuff I learned. And I mean, it's just not enough. And it's just like, you got to start young with all of these things. It is like a child today who's on the path to homelessness, probably already is homeless.
Yeah.
And we need to be putting resources in their hands directly. That way we don't have 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, and people who are just getting older, and some people who are going through mental health crises from being on the street. And that's even the reason why they're on the street, because they never received help for that. So that's the stuff I learned.
Yeah. It's a shame that the homeless, or just the disenfranchised, I think that's the right word.
Yeah.
People in upstate New York, and just I think it's a country thing as well. We just don't. There's really no empathy or sympathy for them. It's really, really, really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like in America, like I don't remember what the exact phrase was, but it was like, America's a beautiful place if you have money, but it's hell if you don't have any money.
No, yes.
And it seems like people who are already on the bottom, like as a people, as a society, and as a system, we do a horrible job of just pushing them even farther down on the bottom. And I hate that, honestly.
Well, and it's I think it's important for the people who like run like our economy, for there to be visible like it for it to be visible what happens to you when you don't work yourself to death, and it's like all this is policy, so, and like some of it is just like it's just an ad campaign for the society they want us to live in. And then most of us, and this is another reason why the campaign is very popular, because most of us want a society where we're all cared for, because you treat others how you want to be treated. And some of us need opportunities, some of us just need opportunities, and it's just like we barely, like none of this really comes down to merit. It's cruel luck sometimes, ending up on the street or becoming a millionaire, and they want, it's very, very sad. But it's another big thing. It's just like people will clear these encampments, and like where people like there are a lot of places in upstate New York where you just have like camps set up of homeless, disenfranchised people, and they'll bust up the camp and then not understanding that the camp is just going to be reconstitute somewhere else. Right. So it's just like a band-aid solution on top of band-aid solution.
Yeah. So you're running for mayor in Schenectady. Is poverty organic or is it manufactured?
It is manufactured. It is manufactured, because poverty is a circumstance of resource, and if you can go block by block and catalog the amount of money that has been spent, or the amount of money that leaves, and that's really what it's a matter of. Like when you go to a downtrodden area, the resources are being sapped. It's not that they're not there, it's that they're being extracted. The resource is being extracted, and the resource can only be extracted in the manner that creates the situation when the people are disenfranchised, when it looks so bad. And
so it's a revolving cycle.
It is a revolving cycle, and that's why a big part of this campaign is it's manufactured, especially when you have something like Metroplex in Schenectady County, where since 1998 they've collected 50% of the sales tax in Schenectady County, and they've chosen to spend that money on attempted downtown revitalizations. And it's the people of Schenectady have been contributing to that for years upon years. And it's been said by multiple mayoral candidates in the context of Schenectady that Metroplex and that sales tax funding fails to reach the neighborhoods that are just outside of our downtown. So, and it's just like even in Albany, when you're the switch, when you're driving past the Capitol, and then as soon as you're outside of the Capitol, you see one of Albany's faces, and one of Albany's faces is because you have this excruciatingly large building that is just like empirically taking the resources and then doling them out to who they see fit. And there's just like some people, like in my graduating class, out of 700 of us, 500 of us were at an economic disadvantage, and that comes down to like where you live, and how the money is reaching where you live. And it's manufactured, and these areas look like that because their resources are being taken and stolen and diverted. And then a lot of this is based on how the roads and the highways have cut up our communities. Like we've for some of these communities, we've destroyed their downtown areas, to make it easier to traverse the state. So very, yeah.
Yeah. So you just spoke about high school. Did you go to Schenectady High School, and what was that like?
Schenectady High School was amazing. You had to be there.
You were popular. We already talked about that.
we was rap battling. We had the cafeteria lit. I was the Schenectady High School mascot, the Patriot.
Sheesh.
I played lacrosse. I ran indoor track. And it was amazing just because of all the diversity, and there was really like the fact that it was so cohesive, and it just offered a lot of us an opportunity to have the conversations that people are just having for the first time in our youth. And so it was just the fact that it was such a large high school, and there was so many different representation, that was really big. And then we're the Patriots. So it's just like wherever if you went to Schenectady High School, you could say, you're the Patriot, and that's why I love Lincoln for people with high school, like we the Patriots. So yeah, it was great. But what I will say, and like even now as mayor, as running for mayor, but as mayor, the fact that our programs are so, another great word, disenfranchised, and like the difference between how we fund our sports programs, especially for our youth, is basically on donations. And I'm sure other places that's how they similarly do it. But at this point, it's a matter of necessity to have not just sports programs, but opportunities in language for younger people, because this is like, it's just like, what is the youth program? And as someone who went to Schenectady High School, I just wanted more opportunities to publicly speak, to communicate with my fellow students. And like when you like what students are going through now with like phones being banned in school, and in the hopes that communication, their communication skills can flourish, you really do have to set up environments for them to communicate, and to use those social skills and develop those social skills. And even when phones weren't a big thing, and like I'm weirdly old, where like I remember classrooms with no computers, and then I remember computers being everywhere. And then
You're 28.
Yeah, no. So it's like we need to not shy away from these things or just ban these things in the effort to get our students to communicate better. We literally need to incentivize them communicating, not punish them into communicating. It's very yeah.
So you're running for mayor in Schenectady, right? How corrupt is politics or our system in general?
It's at an all-time high of corruption. And so much of the corruption it just seems normal. And just how certain things, I mean, and it's corrupt. And why people don't talk about the level of corruption is because the people who are corrupt are constantly trying to get us to live in fear, and they would prefer us to, because when you live in fear and when you're always afraid, you don't think about why your sidewalks look the way they do. You don't think about the potholes. The world feels like it's ending because they're always telling you it's ending. And when you finally get over the fact, like as a young person, I feel like, so we've lived through so many historical events, and the fact of the matter is, like, the world ended multiple times in our lifetime already, and the reality is we were still there after the world ended. So I come at it from, it's just like the world ended and we're rebuilding. What do you do? What are the basics to rebuilding a world after it ends that looks like sidewalks, that looks like roads? And the fact that other people don't concern themselves with that, because how the money gets to the roads, they're getting a piece of it. And a lot of people are more concerned with boosting administrative salaries, people sitting in offices, and each of those dollars could be going to real work, and it just doesn't. And it's because they benefit from a broken society, because the way that they engage with the rules and moral codes and so many other things is corrupt. And I mean, that's just, and then that's the worst aspect of it. And then some people, they don't see it as corruption, they see it as they've earned it, like, oh, I've served, I've served this, I served that. So it's not only is it corrupt, there are some people who don't understand what they're engaging in, and it's very troublesome. But that's why being young is so impactful in this moment, because like so many people, their mentors, like their mentors just came to them and was like, no, this is not corruption. This is how we do things, you know? So you have people who aren't in the same generation as their mentors, and their mentors come from a different time completely. Mm-hmm. So like when you really discuss how old some of these politicians are, there are generational values and perceptions and what is normal are even different. So like to call, like, confuse for a second corruption with the ability to be, you know, like racist or, you know, hateful, you know, some of those, they don't even perceive it as that. It's like, that's just the world order to them. So you have to, not only is it corrupt, but we have to manifest a set of values that goes against it and understands that it's a worldview. It's not just a system; it's the way they see the world. And as long as we are finding people who see the world differently and know how to verbalize the world they see and create art in the direction of that world that they want to see, it becomes competitive. You know, and it really does.
So you're running for mayor in upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you if you think upstate New York politics is corrupt, but I feel like you already answered that, mm-hmm. right? So I'll say, again, you're running for mayor in upstate New York. Why is it that when people get into politics, they have great ideas, but oftentimes when they get in office, they don't implement them?
Because we're not dealing with the fundamentals first. You know, like, ideology is great. You know, your beliefs are great. Your ideas are great. And even why this campaign is reaching so many people is because we're starting with the basics first. We're talking about filling in potholes. We're talking about building, you know, paving sidewalks. We're literally talking about paving paths. All right. We're talking about the basics, the basics,
the bare minimum,
the bare minimum. Yeah. So like all of those ideas, and it's like some people are so
the bare minimum that never gets executed, by the way, I might add.
No, and that
oftentimes,
and that like, and I've said on multiple, you know, interviews, you could run anywhere in this country on filling in potholes. It's a winning campaign, but how you get there is understanding how your area generates revenue, the sorts of financial agreements that they're in, and unless you're willing to start there and open up, and like genuinely, anyone who ask me, how are you going to fund this or fund that? We start from the basics, that so many of these things are services, and you're getting price gouged by the people who are allowing to deliver the service. Mm-hmm. And when you put the service in the hand of the service provider, you have a much better local economy where dollars are circulating here. So I focus on the basics. Most of these people genuinely are just running on fantasy, ego, vanity projects. And it's like me running for mayor is so funny because there are people who are watching this and they know this is just how I talk. We've been talking like this. This is like, we're now doing it. This is us doing it. And yeah.
So do you think that it's ill actors, like they're going out there and saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and then they knowingly know they're not going to do it and they don't deliver it? Or do you think that they just run into a system that is too hard to actually implement the things that they want to implement? Or do you think that you know, they were just naive and then they get in office and they're like, this is how things really run?
Some people they go in with the greatest of intent, but they don't understand how anything actually works. And they don't try to understand it fundamentally. So, and then they never understand it fundamentally, and then 30 years have passed. You know, and everyone remembers them as the guy who, oh, he tried. He really did. He really did try, that guy, you know, and that's enough. That genuinely is enough. A lot of people don't run in their hometowns because it's so personal. So, and that's like that's a whole other, you know, thing. But people like, they're forming new identities, and when if you don't have to be who you say you are, you don't have to. You find yourself in a situation where you got where you got by faking it until you make it, you know. But it's not all ill. It's not all ill. And the people who it's so funny because the people in the offices, they're not even the people in charge. Like, and that's the big thing. nobody knows so many of the people who are in elected office. Our elections are historically at low turnout. You know, and they like it that way. And so it's the people. There are people who, like, you get swapped out one of these offices. Like, I hear numbers like, oh, an assembly seat cost 150,000. You need to raise 150,000 to win an assembly seat. You know, but that, like, they're talking about dollars, not, oh, well, you need to work and you need to connect with your community to win this assembly seat. So it's the people who run are, I mean, they're like, if you focus on the politicians in the seat, you're not even trying to change anything. There are people who are not elected making decisions.
Right.
And so you need to figure out how to converse with the people who are, they're accountable to no one. And you like, and that's why this campaign is receiving so much support, because we all are affected by the same, like the people I'm alluding to, like the way our grocery stores are set up, the way our we pay for energy. You know, a lot of people are very angry at National Grid right now about what's going on with the record high prices. And there's just so many of these institutions, and you just need someone who is going to speak for these institutions for a wide variety of upstate New Yorkers. And that, I mean, that's the moment we're in.
So you're running for mayor in upstate New York. Do politicians or does big business and big money run the world?
I mean, big business. Big business. They run the world. They tell, they tell our troops where to go. They tell us when to wake up in the morning. They set our sleep schedule. And I mean, it's like, in big part. I say this because, like, people talk about affordability. We genuinely need to reach affordability. People need to be getting paid more. And how you get there in an actionable way is by understanding that there are people in so many companies who do nothing but sit on their ass all day. And people manage, people who are actually doing the work, like our housekeepers, like our nurses, like our, teachers. Our teachers. And so much of the money that could be being individualized into people's paychecks is being siphoned off by people who just stop that from happening. Like, they don't want you talking to your coworker about how much you're making, because then you might realize something. And so it's big business. And the fact that, I mean, local government doesn't do more to support people like this is a huge support among Uber drivers. And it's because they're losing 30, 40, 60% of what they're making in a fare to fees that go to Uber that don't make it to our roads. And their cars are taking the beating. And then they find themselves at the end of the year paying more taxes than Uber or DoorDash. And, it's just a losing situation for us all.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, and then they sell it to you like, oh, you're your own boss. No. So yeah, big business, overwhelming control.
Yeah. Let me just make sure that this is still recording, because that would be tragic if it wasn't. Yeah, we're still good. Okay, perfect. Okay. So again, you're running for mayor in Schenectady in upstate New York.
Yes.
Why aren't people voting? We've had some of the lowest voter turnouts in a long time. You can tell me the specifics. Why is that?
Well, in Schenectady, I'll say, when it comes to, on a local level, our city council elections, we do a staggered system where, instead of electing the entire city council all at once every 2 years, we do 4, 3. We do a staggered where you really never know who's on the ballot. And that's something that needs to be changed. You need to make it easier to vote, not harder. That's why I support things like mail-in balloting, and that especially. But then it's just to get a good candidate, it costs so much. Like, you need it to make access to getting your name on the ballot easier. That way ideas start to circulate. And then you need to understand that these offices are being caught up by the fact that their incumbents don't really have a lot of accountability. We've had the same mayor for almost 4 terms, And when you have the same people in, you get the same results. So it's like the chicken or the egg. Are people not voting because the politicians are bad, or are the politicians bad because the people aren't voting? And it's a combination. And that's why when you talk about foundational things, not just ideology, when you talk about things that, oh well, I've seen that name above of things, but I didn't know how much control they had. When you start bringing that to people, you start waking people up. And it's not about it's easy to get people to, like, when you're in politics, especially at this moment, it's very easy to get people invested because of hate or fear, and because they're afraid. And like when you're dealing with someone in that state, you need to start activating people who are entering politics to build, to discover, to learn, to communicate, and to be a servant leader. And if you don't do that, you'll continually have low turnout. And I mean, the incumbents, they like low turnout because the only people coming out are the people who, the people who work for the government, the people who can come out, the retirees. So you have a voting demographic that tends to be older, but there are more people, like there are a lot of people who need to be getting engaged on a local level, and they know that. So it's shifting. It is shifting.
So, as the person who's running for mayor in upstate New York, would you say that politics is a popularity contest?
It definitely, the thing is, it wasn't for a long time. It wasn't. It was so niche. But politics is a popularity contest. And I am very lucky to be popular even before this mayoral campaign. Hello to all my friends out there, my friends, family across upstate New York.
My name is Orlando Otis Hunley.
Yes, my name is Orlando Otis Hunley, and you knew me before I was running for mayor. And a lot of people, when I finally started running for mayor, they're like, about time. So like there are some people who go, oh well, he's too young, and then it's just like some people are like, oh well, why did it take you so long? But it is a popularity contest, and to be liked by people in this moment, it's not just about personality. It is about what are you trying to offer, and what are your thoughts on certain issues, and how, like, we all want change, and everyone's promising change, and sometimes they're promising change, but it it's just all talk, so it's like you really do have to hold people's attention, and then you really do need to be by the day, showcasing your personality and who you are, and then why the issues you're talking about are still important.
Mm-hmm. What can we or what can you do to help the youth in upstate New York?
To help the youth, starting with funding in Schenectady, our athletic programs, for so long, our coaches and volunteers, they've been volunteers. So getting mentors involved in athletics, creating opportunities for arts for young people, getting them in front of their first computer, helping them edit their first video, compose their first speech. Understanding internet safety is a very big thing, and inundating them with safety precautions against all of the AI generated content that is coming out, and just more opportunities in outdoor activities, more youth and young family centered events, um, public daycare on the local level. And when I ran for city council in 2023, that was and naively just ran on issues. My three issues at that time were a 24-hour pharmacy, which, if you're in upstate New York, to get to a 24-hour pharmacy, Saratoga has one, probably one other, but the one I use is Saratoga when I need my inhaler in the middle of the night. A 24-hour grocery store, which we used to have in upstate New York, and would be very important for so many of our night shift workers. And then, of course, daycare, and that's because so much money is leaving the pockets of single parents, families, to care for their child during the day, and to make that a safe environment. And then just it's just getting their parents a higher wage, and doing whatever from City Hall that encourages that, financial disclosures, on when it comes to these companies who fail a lot of the times their customers, and fail the people who work for them, and there are people who are working at, like they would it to help the youth, you have to help the parents, and you also have to present them with just ample opportunity to discover themselves.
Is Schenectady dangerous?
It can be, but that's the thing. I will say this: it's dangerous. The things that are most dangerous about Schenectady is the high rent, politicians who don't care about the public.
Interesting answer.
Schools that don't have AC in the summer and barely have heating in the winter. I mean, those are the things that I think are most dangerous about Schenectady. That we have potholes that can pop one of your tires at any moment. That we have, elderly who can't leave their homes because sidewalks aren't shoveled. I'd say those are the most dangerous things about Schenectady.
So most people blame the people, you blame the system.
Oh yeah, I definitely, because I yeah, I grew up on Division Street. I am a Schenectadian through and through, and I am from the neighborhoods that people like. And I even remember when I'm coming out of high school, and I would tell people I'm from Schenectady. They would go, ooh, and it provided a sort of like for a long time, people were just scared of people from Schenectady because what they heard about us and what they think are
stereotypes.
Stereotypes. But our hood is different. It's elegant. It's thoughtful. We have an anime debates in our hood. I don't know what y'all are doing in yours, but we good. We good in Schenectady. We're nice people in Schenectady. That's what I'll say.
Okay. Is Schenectady ghetto?
The ghettoest thing about Schenectady is that they don't turn the heat on at the city hall meetings, so the residents freeze. It's it's that we don't have sidewalks where kids are walking home from school. That you're paying $3,000 in some cases for for a very small unit. That we're not. What's ghetto about Schenectady is that we're doing only short-term profit-driven thinking and not long-term community-driven thinking.
Were you born and raised in Schenectady?
I'm like so many of us. I was born at Ellis Hospital in Albany. My father is from Schenectady.
Ellis Hospital in Albany, or you mean Albany Med?
Albany Med. There we go. Okay. I was born in Albany Med, like most of us. Sheesh. And my mother is from Albany and my father is from Schenectady. So I am an upstate New York hybrid. I would defer to my Schenectady side more than anything. But I have as much family in Albany as I do in Schenectady. And even my grandfather was, he was in Troy most of my life. So that there's even aspects of Troy that I can identify with. But I am a Schenectady voice. I am the connect, and it's big thing about Schenectady. Connect was always in our name. So I'm connected to all of upstate.
The connect. Tell me, what is the connect?
Well, it's Schenectady. So it's important. Schenectady has. We're known as the Electric City. We used to be one of the centers for rail in this area, but when the S is silent, it really is Schenectady. And that's a big thing. That a big part of the campaign is that we're just trying to connect the city, and there's a difference between a connection, CENECT, and a connection.
Interesting.
Bars. And we really are. It's Schenectady. So and that's up until recently. The mayor of Schenectady TikTok videos I'm doing running for mayor, the Lisa Barlow situation. And then the only reason Schenectady would go viral is people mispronouncing our name. So I've given the world, and then that's the thing that I deal with, and me and Schenectady have in common. Both of our names are just
get messed up.
Yeah, just get mispronounced.
Me too, man. Me too. Yeah. Do you have a message to the police department in Schenectady? Any message or no message?
Um, so many of, I mean, the great thing about our police department, and I think what other police departments need to focus on is that we have a lot of people who I have coaches. I have a my lacrosse coach is a policeman. I have my friend my dad's friends from his childhood are policemen. My friends from my childhood are on the force. And I think it's important to keep policing local and respondent to the people of the area. I think police should be a part of the community, and I think it's a matter of community building exercise. And then I think that justice is a matter of not exercising it on the most vulnerable, and this is it's about exercising it equally. So it's very important. I think we all agree with that justice should be exercised equally. And the fact that, I mean, I look across New York State, and the law gets thrown around, and people, they enforce it on the vulnerable more than they enforce it on wrongdoers. If your collar's white, instead of blue, they'll that's how they're treating people.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
it's about justice and community. That's my message.
Yeah, I mean, our system is so unfairly rigged to those who don't have resources. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
And
no,
those who do have resources, I'm not gonna say they skate, but it's just not the same. Let's
yeah.
just say it's just not the same.
No, it's not the same. And if you, I mean, it alters some of our lives. Like they're like it, like people, and that's like the big thing. We want to end recidivism, and that starts with dealing with our youth, and then creating opportunities for people to work and earn a living. And if you don't do that for people, there will always be high rates of recidivism, and that's something that we all work on
What is
together.
recidivism?
When you get out of jail and then you end
Okay,
up committing,
repeat offender.
yeah, repeat offender.
Okay.
Yep. Yes.
This might be a little silly, but I'll say it anyway.
Hmm.
I was watching The Dark Knight. If who doesn't love The Dark Knight, right? The Dark Knight Rises, and there's a scene where in the Dark Knight Rises, Bruce Wayne, he's losing a lot of his money. His companies are going out of his control, da, 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 and he goes to see Catwoman,
Hmm.
played by Anne Hathaway in that movie, and he goes to see her in her apartment. So, long story short, she's quote unquote poor. He's obviously very, very wealthy. He goes to see her in her apartment, and he walks in there and he says, "Oh, this is a nice place you have." And she said, "Yeah, it's not bad, but it's better than what you have right now because he just went bankrupt."
Yeah.
And he said, and I quote, "Actually, they're letting me keep the house." And she said, "Wow, even the rich don't go broke like the rest of us." And that just stuck with me,
Yeah.
like just that. And then also, I watched the Wolf of Wall Street interview, and he was talking about how DJ Vlad had asked him, did you go to prison, or did you go to country club prison? He said,
Yeah.
I went to country club prison.
Uh-huh.
So I want to be wealthy. I feel like I probably will be wealthy,
Hmm.
but I feel like I, as a middle class, lower middle class, whatever person, I don't even think I fully understand the differences in, like, just the difference in the world or the rules for the wealthy versus the non-wealthy. I
Yeah.
mean, what do you think about that?
I do think that the wealthy operate by a different set of rules. And I mean, it's mostly like one of the things that like my mind goes to is just like how you're able to buy a gold card to become a citizen. And that,
Literally.
but like poor immigrants, the whole other thing. But yeah, no, it's just two different, it's two different levels. And just the way that, like, you could tell how rich someone is uh, when they get charged by how convoluted the charges sound. You know, a poor person will go to jail for murder. Rich person will go to, get charged with the uncasual unaliving of, it just sounds
Reckless
crazier.
endangerment or whatever. Yeah.
They just convolute the charges, and it's all a language trick. So it's just like, it's some in it. Yeah, yeah. It's bad.
Yeah. So you're running for mayor in Schenectady or in upstate New York.
Mhm.
Why should we vote for you instead of your competitors?
Well, it's because where this is a rare opportunity to see how local government really works. It's a new era in Schenectady and upstate New York, and of course, New York State. And it's about keeping our money circulating in our communities. It's about exiting bad financial agreements that cost us and the city and and the services that it provides year after year. It's about having accessible government, and it's about being transparent. And it's just about making City Hall about service again, and service to all of our neighborhoods equally, and building long-term solutions to long-term problems. And I don't think there are many other candidates that are offering that. And I do think, just in the sense of what we've done on social media, and like there are a lot of people, who do whatever they do, but I do view it as historic that we've been able to reach so many people in this moment in upstate New York about public transit, about housing, about how we interact with our local governments and how decisions are made for us, not by us.
So they canceled the Metro North into Albany, I think.
Yeah.
Why? And tell me about that.
Well, from my understanding, they canceled it because Amtrak realized how much money that they were going to lose. And I think this is important for someone who wants to understand like public transit policy, and just transit policy on a larger level. Instead of giving the people of New York something that was affordable, we used it as a negotiating tool to get Amtrak to behave the way we wanted, and then to not really receive something as affordable. And I mean, it just, even in the moments where, like, the videos that are circulating online of Amtrak having trains that are like frozen on the inside. So we are genuinely being like robbed, and like the answer to so many of our problems across upstate New York are connecting our communities, is making it more affordable to travel New York State. That is going to create the boom in our downtowns that is real and lasting, and not the placebo effect that we've experienced, where large companies come in and for a couple years they work and then they cut down the workforce. And it's about travel, them not seeing travel as like an absolute necessity. Like, it should not take, at this day and age, it should not take 3 hours to get from upstate New York to New York City. That, like, time is money.
100%.
Time is money, and like they want the rest of us diddling our fingers, 3 hours behind, and always playing catch up, when we need to start building out these things that are accessible for all of our people and connect us. So it's very sad that it was canceled, but they announced it to get us excited and to scare Amtrak into opening their services back up earlier, because Amtrak was going to shut down for 2 years.
Okay.
And the answer from the state was, oh, we'll extend the MTA. And it's like, extending the MTA, from what I've heard and from like listening to people, that's not a long-term answer. Like, upstate New York needs its own rail, and then it can connect to the MTA, but it's not the best long-term thing for us to be underneath the MTA, because the MTA already has all of its problems. So we these things need to be locally owned. And I mean, there's so much money in public transit for people, so there's so many jobs.
So, as someone who is aspiring to be the future mayor in Schenectady or in upstate New York, do you believe in God?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
What role does God play in your life?
Sometimes I feel like I'm just channeling something beyond me. And most of the times I really never know what's going to work. I really never know what's going to connect with people, but I just speak from the heart, and I speak from all of my experiences at once. And it's important. It's important to know that you are not the center of the universe, and that there are things out of your control. And when you find yourself in that space, things become so much simpler. You're not worried about legacy. You're not worried about ego. you're just worried about service. And to say that, like, growing up, and it's like, this is just this is an amazing quote that I heard somewhere, but like, growing up, I felt like this quote: I wanted to help everyone, and the fact that I get to help anyone is amazing. So it's just like finding, just like, scaling yourself and understanding that there are things that are, being, some things are out of your control.
What are some of the best restaurants in Schenectady or in upstate New York?
Marino's on State Street, Ming's, the Moon and River Cafe, and the Stockade. I'm gonna have to say Roy's in Albany. Shout out Kenneth's. If we're, really Marino's. I gotta stress Marino's. I be in Marino's. Marino's is a Schenectady staple, and it's one of our most historic restaurants. I mean, best pizza. Go get a Sicilian cut. And I shout out Buy Brewing in Cohoes. I don't know if you've ever been Buy Brewing. The chicken wings there, extra crispy, fire. The way that I was talking to Bob, the owner, and he was telling me about how they soak the potatoes in water, and then just like how they season, like you wouldn't, the way that they be seasoning French fries in Cohoes, you would never imagine.
It's different.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah.
That's funny. You just spoke about Bob. Are there any people in the local Schenectady or upstate New York community that you want to shout out?
Oh, Corel, dear friend, my brother, fellow artist, helps me do a lot of the research for the campaign. Jenny Marie, the cool mom, Ozzy, Sam Patricus, that's my guy.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, this is like yo, this is like being on the radio. Like, who do you shout someone out? My mom, of course, my father, Richard Janess, Craig Patricus, who does Schenectady Art Night, which is an amazing thing that we do every month in Schenectady with all of our businesses.
It's Schenectady Art Night. That's
Schenectady Art Night, and shout out. Yeah, shout out.
Who runs Schenectady Art Night?
Craig Patricus.
So you're saying all the different business owners get together? What is that?
Yeah, so you just like you walk around like and there's art, like a bunch of art, and then you can go to the Armory, Schenectady's Armory, and there's music there and refreshments, and then you just go to each business, and each business has music and a different artist on the wall.
Interesting.
The gallery spaces. Third Friday of each month.
Interesting. Okay. What are the most fun places in Schenectady or in upstate New York?
Well, throwback. I mean, back in the day, it was the 24-hour Walmart. Like we used to just go hang out in the Walmart and in the parking lot. And I used to pop the Welch's white grape bottle, and I used to pretend it was like an actual. But we used to pretend to pop bottles in the 24-hour Walmart parking lot. But modern day Marinos, Marinos is. I mean, if you're just like, I feel like so old. Like I go out and I do a nice night out as a Modelo and some pasta. So Marinos. I'll be bowling Erie Boulevard, the bowling alley at Erie Boulevard. But mostly I just be walking for hours. This is like I just walk, So it's just like outside, if you want to have fun, go outside, and you'll never know what you'll find.
So you're running for mayor in Schenectady or in upstate New York. Why? What inspired you to do so?
Just like when I ran for city council, I naively ran on just ideas and policy and that sort of thing. And in the time since 2023 and that initial run, I just learned so much more about Schenectady. And it's not that I just want to be mayor. I think that I would make the best mayor for this moment in Schenectady's history, which Schenectady is a city that's older than the country. And it's just been the launching pad for so many of our communication technologies. whether it be television or radio, there and now social media in the way that I'm using it in this campaign. So it's just I've always, as I said, like, there are people who see me and they're like, oh, you're so young running for mayor, you're too young running for mayor. And then there are people who've known me, all ages, and they're just like, why didn't you run when you were 18?
It's about time.
It's about time. And so it's just like, I up until like a year ago, I was dealing with like massive stage fright, and when it comes to like performing, music and stuff like that. And like I had been dealing with that since I was like 7. So I overcame just like certain internal things, and then I just found myself in dialogue with people across upstate New York, in Schenectady, about becoming mayor. And so it's just like it's all coming together, and we now know things that we didn't know, and I now know things that I wish I knew then. And I now know who was keeping it from me. So it's just about, when everyone talks about change, everyone talks about hopefully filling in potholes, but we talk about how we're going to do it, and we talk about the agreements that have stopped us from doing it, and why the money isn't making it there, and why it will make it there under Orlando Otis Hunley as mayor of Schenectady.
How are you going to end food deserts in Schenectady?
Well, we're going to stop. You need to, across so many industries, decentralize, and you need, decentralizing it makes it more accessible. So in Schenectady, so many of our neighborhoods, they're food deserts, but they have Dollar Trees. They're food deserts, but they have corner stores. So instead of, you know, relying on these big box grocery stores, it's about updating the resources we already have and putting fresh produce in the places that we already have across Schenectady. So turning corner stores into grocery stores, and that will affect how some grocery stores feel, especially in a moment where you have Market 32 consolidating the grocery store market, and they just bought up ShopRite, I believe. And that represents a great problem, because like I did a video like a month ago about how like 80% of the pears that are in our grocery stores in upstate New York, they're coming from Washington State and Oregon. And so they're traveling all of these roads, they're being flown here, they're
Across
getting
the
here,
country, yeah.
but they don't make it to our food desert. So it also making sure that these products and these produce that are traveling far distances just make it that one final step. And then also, it's so important, if you want a city that's thriving, two of the things that I find to be so important, and it's like I like it, and I'm going to talk about them in tandem moving forward, but kitchens and stages. People need to be able to cook where they are, and because our food is so cultural, and it's just not every the solution to food deserts, it's not just grocery stores. It's not just that. It's not that simple. It's about having access to a good home cooked meal. And there we have so many people who can know how to cook, and it's just a whole economy into itself. And then stages, and so like kitchens and stages, where so that's how we're going to end food deserts.
Okay. So you're running for mayor in upstate New York. Are local politics more important than national politics?
Yes. Yes, definitely. In very real ways, when it comes to property taxes and how that's affecting the raise in rent that so many of us are experiencing, our local taxes and how those are spent. And so, you have a great advantage, because you get to focus in on important issues, when on the federal level, it's about making things so abstract. On the local level, it's about being definitive, and it's not about an ideology, it's about a philosophy. And if your philosophy is, well, we're going to raise revenue by levying fees, fines, and taxes, or we're going to raise revenue by being in the community and offering services, by ensuring that our sidewalks are cleared, that our small businesses have the same opportunity as these large businesses that are competing with them wrongfully. And in so many cases, our small businesses, like with like Metroplex, our small businesses are contributing to funds that large institutions like our Union College and, you know, so many other businesses don't contribute to it on the same level. So, and then they're the ones dealing, like, if for a small business, if a pipe bursts, that's it. You know, like that's the difference, you know. And that's like, so it's about servicing those people. It's about making your residents feel heard. And then national politics is just in disarray, and it's about confusion, fear, and hatred. You know.
Yeah. So, as the man who strives or is running for future mayor in Schenectady in upstate New York, what's your message to the people watching? I mean, the teachers, the nurses, the parents, just the average citizen like you or me.
It's time that we get paid what we're worth. It's time that our skills are valued. It's time that our experience is felt. Um, it's time that we start being who we always knew we could be, and even why we even find ourselves in situations that we know are challenging. It's time to very much raise that challenge, and, you know, move on to greater challenges, which is preparing the next generation to do even more than we're doing currently. And it's about the realization that some people aren't going to pass the torch, and that you have to take it. That's that's a big thing about this campaign. People literally were not going to hand me the torch. I took it anyway. So it's like we know who we are. We know where our hearts, where we're coming from in our heart, and we know what we're capable of. And it's, if you fail, make it a lesson. And no, it's about getting what you're worth, and not being diminished out of that.
So you're running for mayor in Schenectady or in upstate New York. What made you want to utilize social media so heavily?
Well, it's the fact that the institutional media would, up until this point, hasn't covered me in a way that has been fair. And that's, like, it's not just me, it's like, I mean, that's their ability. But social media and the impact that I'm having on it is comparable to the institutional medias, and I would say in many realities I'm reaching more people than them through this sort of content, and I'm solidifying a stronger base than they have had. And it's just like certain conversations get iced out of popular media, mainstream media. And that's why it's just like, even doing interviews with you and the other people across upstate New York that are, championing independent media, doing, doing independent journalism, hosting conversations and broadcasting. It's a civic duty, and it's a power that they don't really want us to know we have, that we live in the age of information, and that we can contribute to what that information is, and they have no ability to dictate it. And when you offer again and again substance, and you're talking about dollars and cents, and they ignore you, I mean, it's just like, you can ignore it, but it's happening. So like that's the that's and from 2023 to now, there have been so many technological advancements in terms of what it means to run an independent campaign that isn't backed by a lot of money. And social media, and as we were talking before this, like algorithms, Facebook, like political content on Facebook and Instagram, it's just like it very rarely gets pushed. On YouTube, it very rarely gets pushed. You get subdued in the algorithm, but they lean towards these authoritative sources. But just because it says you're an authoritative source doesn't mean that you have any real authority on the issue. So it's like, we've been able to reach people because things like TikTok have finally offered a fairness structure in reaching the people, reaching your audience. So it's just like, we're building an audience on social media. And a lot of politicians are on social media. Some of them are private, weirdly, and then some of them have no motion. It's because they're not saying anything. It's because they don't want to take a photo. It's because You know, even though I look hella nervous when I'm speaking into a camera, there are guys who look like you would think, you wait until you see how suave and charismatic I am, you know, compared to some of these guys who can't even, they look nervous on the news. You know, they look nervous, you know, talking to Channel 6. You know, so it's just the times are changing, you know, and it's like it's very similar to Obama and how he used Facebook. And then another thing, you know, the monk Martin Luther and how he used the printing press. You know, you use what's available to you to reach an audience and you know, bring people together and create a coalition that wasn't possible under old media formats.
Do you ever get recognized for running for mayor?
Oh, all the time.
Schenectady?
All the time. You know, I everywhere I go, not just in Schenectady too. People record me. People, you know, we take photos together, and it's not just like people from high school. It's people of all creeds, colors, and religion, and you know, and just like it feels like a big upstate New York party. You know, like, and it's because we like the things I'm talking about in Schenectady work in Troy, they work in Saratoga, they work in Albany, and it's yeah, I get recognized everywhere I go, and it's hella love, and I get some dirty looks too, you know. But hey,
comes with the territory.
It comes with the territory, you know.
Did you hear about the Schenectady lady that left her newborn in a drainage pipe at the GE campus?
Yes, disgusting. Yes, yeah, disgusting. Very, very bad. Didn't she just get 25 to life?
Something 25 minimum, yeah.
Yeah, and then the judge said, "Don't worry about parole." You know, it's not a good look. Very, very unfortunate, and we gotta protect our youth. And it's, I mean, an even deeper problem because it, yeah, we have to protect our youth, and there are some people who aren't quite ready to be parents, and the children suffer the consequences.
I don't know anything about that situation except for that headline that I just read, right? But I feel bad. I mean, you know, when women have a baby, like they're literally, their hormones are so different. And I don't know. I'm not excusing what she did. There's no excuse for what she did, especially for that little innocent kid. But I don't know. Does one literally just kill their child for no reason?
Yeah, no, it's but
Or is there mental health? Is there lack of resources? Is there lack of this, lack of that? Like,
and that's exactly what I'll join you on, because it's like some of this, not everyone. The idea is just to fill our prisons. It's not with who we're uncaring if the people who are committing some of these violent crimes do have mental health issues, and we're just not curious about that, and that just creates an even larger problem and even more suffering. And you know, our system shouldn't just be about suffering and punishment. It should be about justice and rehabilitation. And if, you know, we're not seeking that, if we're not putting people in those scenarios to work through their deep-seated traumas, because one does not just kill their child, you know, and you know, there are psychological things that need to be looked into and studied on that level, so we know why one does do that. That's, you know, that's a benefit of living in civilization.
yeah.
That you know, you see something like that and you go, well, that is sick, but we have to be inquisitive about why it happened.
Right. Why does everything in upstate New York close at like 9 p.m.?
I mean, especially post the pandemic, I figure that a lot of these businesses realized that they could make the same amount of money condensing hours that they did having wider hours, and that they could pay people less. And so it's just like not a lot of people just, I mean, the people who are, and this is why local ownership is important too, because there might be, I mean, there might be a mix of incentive. You know, if you live right there, you might want to close a little early, you know, but we definitely need like 24-hour cafes. Like we need 24-hour pharmacies. I'm a huge proponent of 24-hour services, because you know, emergencies don't stop, hunger doesn't stop,
Right.
you know, the need for medicine doesn't stop, and you know, that means our businesses shouldn't stop either, especially when we're in New York State, the home of the city that doesn't sleep. Then why does the rest of the state go to bed?
Right. Early.
Yeah, early.
Yeah.
Like this is Burlington, Vermont.
You know? Should people from upstate New York be jealous of people from New York City?
No, because no, and I do think, this campaign is a very much a confidence builder for those people, because very much so, like, there is the mayor of New York City is he said something like, oh, the city contributes 64% of the state and they only get 40% back, and as saying is like, oh, the city is like contributing so much to the state. Upstate New York is it is a hotbed for everything that any country, any place would need. We have farmland, we have, scenery that you can't get anywhere else. We have, so many historical towns, and then we have, one of the most diverse populations. And there are just certain things that we need to do to make ourselves feel more important. That is public transit. That is, you know, opportunities for our students. That is, not to have people so trapped in their college campuses. And it's just accessibility. And it's also just like we are New York State. Like we are New York State. And we're upstate. Up is literally in our name.
And we have the capital.
Yeah. No, and we have the capital. And the thing is, the capital needs to start acting like one.
100%.
Like, yo, hey, yo, the capital needs to start moving like one. So that's I'll say that.
So you're running for mayor in Schenectady or in upstate New York. Is there a final message that you want to leave with the people?
Please do consider getting involved in your local politics, looking into your local representatives, figuring out how decisions get made, how certain agreements get approved. And then also think about becoming a $1 donor to our campaign, because we've always done more with less. And we are currently being asked to pay more for less. And this campaign is a real opportunity to bring public transit, higher wages, and accountability to so many of our institutions.
Okay. This was, tell them your name, please.
My name is Otis Hunley, and I'm running for mayor of Schenectady, New York.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.